there, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm actually recording this on my phone. Okay, it's such a weird thing. There's an echo now because I've just walked into my living room because as I started recording this podcast, genuinely thought I could see a massive spider and not a fan. Don't wish harm on them. Just don't like them crawling all over my house. I don't mind the little spindly ones. We've got loads of those where they kind of look like daddy long legs without flies. They're fine. It's like the big tarantula-like ones. And we literally had the biggest spider I've ever seen in the house a few weeks ago. And I was like, this house is so spidery. And I kind of think it's like an old house with loads of trees. It just looks spidery. And if anyone gets what I mean, if you've got a spidery house or you've been in a spidery house, you're just like, this is a spidery house. And like, I actually Googled about house spiders. Oh, if you're new to the podcast, sorry. I'm Cassie, by the way. Anyway, if we've ever Googled house spider, like apparently when you put them outside, you will kill them. They don't come in from outside. I read like this person with this spider PhD. I mean, what a freak. Anyway, but he was like, if you take a house spider and put it outside, it will die. And I was like, what? So they're actually evolved to live in houses. And that kind of freaked me out. They were like, they live in your house. They just want to be there and get by. And like, when you see them, they're often going to find a new place to hide and to find their mate to mate with. And I was like, no. So like, I'm really conflicted here because if you take a house spider and put it outside, it's gonna die. For what purpose? Completely unnecessary. But if you're like, don't want it in your house, and where's it supposed to go? Because basically, I can't deal with the fact that it might go on me in my sleep. I just think they're minging. So anyway, this isn't one of my ethical, not philosophical, dilemmas that takes up space in my mind, along with all the other weird shit that I think about. So anyway, today I'm going to talk about homeopathy and why, I'm moving more towards homeopathy as like my lead therapy, and why I believe it is literally the future of medicine. It's insane. It's an insane tool, but I'm going to kind of break down reasons like how it works and why it works. And as you know, when I do my podcast, I try and structure them. I have a thing in front of me and I can't, like, it's just not how my brain works. And if I try and structure it, it will not come out right. But hey, I'm going to try. I am an integrative therapist, which means, yes, I did astrology for a big part of what I did for a while. And that was largely for a few reasons. Firstly, we went into lockdown. I actually predominantly taught yoga and did body work and body therapy, even up until lockdown. That was like my career, and I was, like well respected in my area. I love teaching yoga. I still would teach it. I physically can't right now because of obviously Bonnie, and also loving the fact that I built this incredible online platform. And I'd never really had online business until lockdown. Like, I'd used it, but all my business was very face-to-face and had always built by word of mouth, like every business I've had. And we used to teach music, but then I moved mainly into personal training and yoga, then moved more into yoga and like trauma-informed yoga. And then I came away from that when lockdown happened and had to kind of go fully into my coaching. I'd just finished like a pretty rubbish life coaching course, to be honest, of which I'm like training now to do integrative psychotherapy. So that's what informs all my coaching work, not really the terrible qualification I got. No offense, but it was just so surface level. And the astrology. So I was doing those two things when lockdown hit, and that was working and I was enjoying it. However, I felt that there was still more to what I was eventually going to offer, but that I would find it and I would find like my thing, my lead thing. And yes, the talk therapy, like my coaching clients that have one-to-one, like they gain a tremendous amount from the work we do together. There's no denying that. But I believe that no one thing can work in isolation to help you fully heal if you're in a state of ill health. And say that you have a mental illness, I do think there's a place for kind of therapies that aren't just talking, such as body therapy, craniosacral therapy, somatic work, meditation, yoga. And you will always have things that you resonate with more, that you think, yes, I can really do this. I believe that if you were just to pick like a few therapies, it would be talk therapy, homeopathy, and maybe one bodywork therapy, and that would be enough. That would be sufficient to fully heal. That's my belief. So I decided, okay, like astrology wasn't offering the deeper solution to the things that I know I'm supposed to work with. The things that I really feel I'm supposed to work with is women's health, fertility. I struggle with fertility and periods for a long time, anorexia, anxiety, and generally hormone-based things. Like, okay, it's nothing new under the sun. Every man and his dog seems to be a hormone therapist right now. But again, the world is not getting like a healthier place. Women are getting more and more infertile and more unhealthy. You know, our life is largely filled with toxins, filled with stress. Like, it's a big thing. And for me to fully step into a role where I can actually make the impact I want to make, homeopathy is really that tool. Obviously, my coaching work is important, but when I discovered homeopathy, I realized that you can like rapidly create change. So I went into my first pregnancy, my only pregnancy, I'm not pregnant again. And I was largely like in a good place. I had recovered from years of eating disorder, like a lot of childhood trauma. You know, I'm a more sensitive type of person, I feel. You know, things affect me. I just feel like they affect me more deeply, or I'm more aware of it. Had a lot of grief, exercise addiction, like a lot of things. Something in homeopathy we would call like a syphilitic miasm, in the sense that I was very self-destructive, and everything came about like self-destruction. It wasn't a conscious choice, as many people don't have a conscious choice to have an eating disorder, an exercise addiction, but it is self-destructive, and there is the unconscious desire there to destroy oneself or to disappear. For me, not everyone has that. Some people have like different genetic tendencies, but I come from a line of alcoholism, etc., etc. And so that kind of in homeopathy would view that as a genetic tendency towards something. So I kind of came from that. So then I'd done a lot of work on myself. However, when I gave birth, it was almost like I just, you know, many of you all know I got quite poorly with postpartum depression. The eating disorder came back, and I just felt like the worst I'd felt in probably a very long time. I felt like all the grief had come back to me. And someone might argue, well, you hadn't fully healed. Yes, that's part of the picture, and that's part of my argument into saying, well, homeopathy helped me really fully heal, because talk therapy and those sorts of things are good, and body work and deep somatic work. I did some of the deepest subconscious work that you can do with my therapist. Like, she's trained in very deep stuff. It was very profound, but you can only go as far as your unconscious is willing to go, as far as your spirit is willing to go. So when I was doing that work, you know, I didn't have a family. You know, I was largely independent, had no family unit. I didn't have Alex. You know, it was very different. And so I was probably spiritually, energetically not supported enough to go deep into the things, or to feel safe enough to let go of the things that were really there under the surface. So when I gave birth, I was like thrown into, and I still actually am working through with homeopathy, some layers of parental anxiety, because there are some things that I still feel are not normal. But maybe you're always going to be an anxious parent, but I just feel like the fact that I can like sob if there's a story today. Bonnie went to nursery. She started nursery, and my partner dropped her off, and he said, oh, they were eating apples, so she had apple. And I was like, oh, and I'd heard this story from my mum friend, who's a weaning expert. She's amazing. Her name's Amy Nutrition. She's really amazing, but she had told me this story about nurseries cutting up apples too big, and it's a really dangerous choking hazard. Now, Bonnie had choked a few months ago, and I mean choked like bad, like we were very lucky, like it absolutely terrified me. She choked on something like a it was like an adult's biscuit, but I thought it was softer than it was. So anyway, apples are a really bad choking hazard. He told me like, oh, the apple chunks were massive, and I was like asking for as much information like I'd gone into on a full on like Psychoresponse. Like I was aware that I was like, okay, you're getting really anxious about this, and then I was trying to get all the information about the flipping apple, and I was like sobbing walking around the co-op because I was like, my child is gonna die. And that's not really a normal response, I don't think. So there's something there, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to make note of the fact that this is not normal. And I was like, okay, like I'm getting into my emotions, just breathe, and, you know, I can get myself out of that state. The level of awareness is there, but also the tendency to jump into that state, you know, let's be honest, that ain't normal. So unless that's like you, then let's just say, oh, we're in it together. And so those are kind of the things I'm working through with homeopathy. But before, when I came to homeopathy, I was going to my therapist and saying, look, this has opened a can of worms and I feel too exhausted. Like I can't do the things I need to do to get well because I have a child full time. And homeopathy, I remember saying, just give me a sign, like universe, just give me the download. And my downloads always come. And my sparks of intuition come once only, and then they go, because I'm a splenic projector, and they're very instant. I got it with Bonnie's name, just things like that. So I was just walking, minding my own business, thinking, you know, tell me the thing, bang, homeopathy. It popped into my head, and I was like, what? I'm not even bothered about homeopathy. Like, I remember this one homeopath I used to know, and I was like, she was weird. But I was like, you know, at this point, I will try anything because I am open to everything. But it still was like, just plants and like, you know, weird things, because I'd had a few goes with it and hadn't really had success. But obviously it was because I wasn't having a full consult. So anyway, long story short, homeopathy was the magic pill that made me find myself again in motherhood. It's helped me tremendously. I did work with Meg Doll on to help me with my eating, which, you know, wasn't that bad like I thought it was bad, but actually I was like, you know, it's not that bad. Homeopathy has helped me alongside eating to get my hormones back in check. I had like greasy hair every day, terrible skin, swinging moods. I was like feeling a lot of impulses to self-harm, and I was like, what the, you know, it was almost like I had birthed and something had gone wrong, but I was not prepared to work with someone and go into the birth. I wasn't there yet. I'd be open to it now, but the birth itself was traumatic. That was the whole thing. Anyway, I'm more delicate, and homeopathy hugely helped me, and it still does. So this weekend, well, this last week, first Bonnie gets a stomach bug, not the one. Then I got a stomach bug. And normally for like me especially, I'll go through a stomach bug and it would take me maybe 5 days to feel myself again. And I was through it in 2 days. And instead of having to take like Lemsip or dose upon paracetamol just to like get through the day, because, you know, being a mom, you don't have an option to lie down and rest. When I got the right homeopathic remedy on the first day, I was kind of fine by the 3rd or 4th dose, so fine after a couple of hours. The next day, because with illness, homeopathy doesn't like necessarily take it away, it removes layers, especially with like acute illness. So a stomach bug, you know, you're still going to go through it. The next day, like I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel bad again, and it was a different like symptoms, like I had different symptoms, so I knew it was a different remedy. I took that remedy, and within hours I was like, I'm right now. So it kind of is like it shortcuts you out the illness. It doesn't necessarily take it away, but it's like a pain relief, takes the edge off and gets you through it much quicker. Same for Bonnie. We used 2 remedies between us, and for babies they respond way quicker. So at first she was like a bit better, but I think I had not found her remedy. It's always hard with yourself and your own kids to find the remedy, just by the way. That's why you can never really do your own homeopathy that great. And then the second day, she was like not herself, and I was like, something is still not right. I gave her another dose of her remedy, and like within 10 minutes, she was running around laughing. So yeah, it is like miracle medicine. And sometimes it sounds too good to be true. And then other times it's a bit more tricky because you're not sure of the remedy. So anyway, homeopathy is the lead tool that I'm going to be using in therapies because it can change lives. But it is a big tool. I'm going to say it will be 80%. 20% is going to be the other stuff. Because if you're taking homeopathy, but, you know, say you're suffering with an eating disorder or disordered eating, and you want out, you're realizing, you know, I want to get my period back, all these things, you're taking homeopathy, that's great, but there's also things in your life that you will need to do to uphold the long-term like change. So you're going to need to eat regularly, you need to lower your exercise. What homeopathy will do is you'll take the remedy and it kind of resonates at a certain level in the body that will allow your body to do the things it needs to do to heal. So it's not like allopathic, where you take chemotherapy, which is basically drug-based therapy, where you take it in and then a symptom goes away because of some outward substance. That's not really a cure. That's just a removal of a symptom or a suppression of a symptom. There's nothing wrong with it because we need to function as humans. So there is a space, I do believe, for allopathy, definitely. But suppression isn't the same as cure. Homeopathy is about gentle, permanent, rapid cure. So when you take a homeopathic remedy, you're taking it in, and what's happening is it resonates at a certain level, which is a vibrational match exactly to your symptoms and your illness. The remedy matches the symptoms, and then it will create a cascade of healing reactions in the body relative to what you need to get you from A to B. Sometimes then you're in a better state of health, but maybe there's other symptoms that show up because maybe you've suppressed all your illnesses your whole life. Maybe you suppress your emotions. Maybe you suppress layers and layers of stuff through drugs, through just trying to survive. So other things come up. And that's why maybe you might have to consider when you work with a homeopath, it's not a quick fix, but you can experience massive change immediately. But then to really create permanent healing, you will probably have to do at least 2 or 3 consults. For me, you know, I'm probably need 4 or 5 because as I'm healing, I'm like, okay, I feel this good. How much better can I feel? There's this coming up. Not everyone will be like that. They'll be quite happy after 1 or 2 consults. So you get to know with homeopathy, the body is showing you through symptoms, the red flags. It's saying, hey, this is what I'm giving you. And it tells you the remedy because the symptoms you experience tells you what remedy you need. It's really that simple. The tricky part is finding the remedy out of thousands and thousands and thousands of them. But hey ho. Another way that homeopathy works is it's cheap. Like the one thing I love about homeopathy is how cheap it is. You go and get a prescription now, I think it's like £9 or something, and that would last you a couple of months, I don't know. That's like also taking into consideration that it might not work or it might be giving you side effects, whatever. With homeopathy, you can get a box of pills, like pilules, a tiny box, which has probably over 100 doses in there. And that would cost you like £4. And each pilule you could drop into water to make 5 or 6 doses. So in other words, from one little vial, you could probably make 500 doses. You would probably never get through that many. But seriously, that's like how cheap it is. It's very cheap. And I look at supplements, you know, because I've worked with nutritional therapists and I definitely like certain supplements. I think there's a place for them. But things like probiotics, for example, the one pardon me, reputable brand of probiotics is I use is Megaspore. That's like £50 a month. Homeopathy has they're called bowel nosodes, and they basically function like probiotics. They are insane. And we've used them for Bonnie because she was having like a lot of allergy based reactions to certain foods, and like eczema, even after we'd treated her eczema, kind of came back. So we did like a formula milk detox with homeopathy, and we used a bowel nosode, which was like, it's like a bowel probiotic, but very specific to the symptoms you have. And it cleared up her problems. They are no more. And she only had like 4 doses. So it's cheap. That would have cost, what, £1? And it's cleared up forever. She doesn't need to keep taking it. If she does, we just take it again. It's really cheap. So for me, I'm like, oh, I love the idea of having probiotics every day. But once you've got past a point where you're kind of well, that, in my opinion, like, it is one of the things we should try and take every day. But if it's not in your budget, which for most people, they don't want to invest in that, it's a cheap alternative. And it does really work profoundly. I'm not sure where I sit with probiotics and bowel nosodes. I like to think you should use both. But if I was to pick one of the two, I would always pick the homeopathic one. Now I know what I know. And then you have like the fact that it's so cheap means that you can have loads of remedies in your kitchen cupboard for any acute illnesses that come up, because you get sick, people get sick, and we want to have alternatives that are natural and safe. So I love it for that personally. I'm like, it's great. It's super cheap. There are things like tissue salts. They kind of work a bit like more on a material level. I'll talk about what I mean by that. But there's like a molecule of the substance in there. So tissue salts like calc phos, calc fluor, these are all really good for different things. And at some point in your life, you would probably have needed tissue salts, and they're insane. Like, I'm definitely using them with clients for fertility a lot, the magnesium tissue salts, because magnesium is like one of the most essential kind of minerals that we need, and we definitely need it for progesterone. But you can also take magnesium glycinate, but again, homeopathy is nice and cheap. And especially if you're pregnant, just on a side note, the calc fluor, calc phos, those tissue salts are essential, because your baby's going to leach you of minerals. And also you're going to be stretching a lot. Your ligaments are going to be a bit lax, and that doesn't change for a while. So a lot of things can go wrong. So tissue salts are amazing for the bone, for you and baby. That's just something I'm throwing in. So just let me know if you were like, what was that? And you missed it. Just drop me a message on Instagram, and I can like send you a little handout or something on those. So yeah. But homeopathy itself is another level of medicine. I don't really like when it's called energy medicine, because I don't think we've understood fully what that is. And I think it kind of sticks it in the category of woo-woo. So then people that are quite material scientists go, well, how can it work? There's no molecules in there. Yet the proof is in the results, and it can't be placebo because it works on babies who are literally not even conscious of what you're doing. So there's a weird one. But I don't like that it's called energy medicine, even though it basically is. So when you have a homeopathic remedy, you're taking a raw substance such as, let's choose stramonium, for example. Stramonium is like a very poisonous plant, but it's a huge remedy for trauma. If you had trauma, like you're listening to the podcast and you gave birth and there was trauma between you, or if when you were born many, many years ago, remember homeopathy works back in time. It works into the past hugely. So say that your birth was traumatic, or there was some kind of separation. If you've had any violent attacks happen to you, stramonium it has many more etiologies, or like has many more starting points than that, but those are like the common ones, especially cesarean, stuff like that. Anyway, that remedy would be poisonous if we gave it a material dose. So we literally can't. Same as arsenicum, which is the food poisoning remedy, the remedy for literally any kind of poisoning, mold poisoning, all of those things, arsenicum. So you get these two remedies. Let's take those for example. You could not give them in a material dose. It would make someone literally die. When you are doing homeopathy, you are diluting to the point where there is no molecule of the substance there. It can't be traced. It's beyond Avogadro's limit. And you're succussing. So the succussion is where you bang something. The succussion is what dynamizes the remedy. That means it makes it dynamic on an energetic level. This is something we can't understand because we can't see it, we can't explain it. There's some huge research into water holding memory and how homeopathic remedies are what happens, but ultimately it's the spirit of that essence in a dynamic kind of form. So when you take a remedy, you're not taking the actual thing, you are taking the spirit of the thing. And depending on how many dilutions and succussions the remedy has had, depends at what potencies or how strong and potent it is, how dynamic it is. That's why we can take remedies in a really high potency that will work back into the past. So your birth, if your birth has something going on, if you had a grief many years ago, a trauma many years ago, homeopathy, we can take a pill that will work back in time because it's dynamic. It's not working on a material level. This is why I always joke and say it's God's medicine because it literally is. And so it's primary care medicine in most, like in India, it's primary care medicine, it should be, but it's treated as some kind of woo-woo crazy stuff. And I won't go into how many doctors who wanted to integrate it into their practice, they were denounced, they had their medical license taken from them. It's really, really bad. And why? It works, it's safe, it's effective. I remember Googling about homeopathy and I found so much stuff saying it's killed children, all of this stuff that is genuinely not true. And I know it's not true because I was kind of looking and there was no source of this info. It was so messed up. And I actually got really upset about it. And I went to my lecturer, I was like, is this true? Could we damage children? And I have literally 20 lecturers who were just insane. And I went to my principal and he was like, this is one of the big arguments that keeps coming out. It's there's no basis for it. It's I've never made any damage. Sometimes you can get homeopathic aggravation. That's very rare. And all that would mean was you maybe sweat a little bit, you have an aggravation of symptoms. It's so rare because basically homeopathy is resonance. So you take the medicine that resonates with what you have. And if it doesn't match where you are and where you're resonating, guess what? Just doesn't work. Unless you went crazy and took it every half an hour in a really high potency for the next 40 days, or you took it every 5 minutes, it's not gonna it's just not how it works. The way that it should be used is the least effective dose. So I had 4 or 5 doses yesterday because each dose my symptoms got less and less, and I was I'm still feeling maybe one more will do it, and that's it. You don't need more. It's resonance. And the only reason that medicine worked is because it was the one that worked. I took 2 or 3 remedies before that one. I was they're not really doing anything. I took them without any luck. Nothing happened. I didn't get worse. got maybe a marginally better actually, but yeah, there is so much like weird shit on the internet that you'll find about it that's literally not true. If you actually go and speak to real homeopaths and real people, you will see that it's very safe and it's very powerful. So where does homeopathy sit in the grand scheme of like you and your healing? It's like this. If you've already done the nutrition, big thumbs up. If you've already done the therapy, that's great. Maybe you're fine, then you don't need it. But if you have the sense that there's still more energy in you, if there's still, you're still struggling with things and you've tried a lot of things, you feel stuck in a rut, if you feel that there's like a niggling problem that could potentially get worse, if you have recurring illnesses, if you have problems with your mental health, basically anything, homeopathy is an incredible tool to have. A lot of people will come to see me just about tiny things like bloating or hay fever, but then the picture unfolds that there is more going on, and there always is. Homeopathy is one of these that will treat the whole person. So we're not just interested in you coming in the consultation and, you know, we take a full medical history. We want to know about everyone's diseases, you know, like in your family, because it's all important, because we look at genetics and we can switch on and off genetic kind of switches. Like that's probably the layman's way of saying it. Kind of turn off tendencies to certain illnesses. That's something you can do with homeopathy. So it's interesting because when you come into a consultation, you will see we're not just interested in what symptoms you have and what we can see. We're interested in everything because we are treating all of you, all of your history, and everything that contributes to you being well, because, you know, genetics is a huge part in that. Homeopathy will then start to really change things. You know, I see that in myself, like I've been working backwards in time because everything in homeopathy will reverse things. Had a lot of injuries from like certain medical things, like the pill is a huge one that was affecting my hormones and fertility, like on another level. You can detox from things like that. So I'm detoxing from that right now. Oh, yeah, I probably still am. And I was thinking, have I finished? But it's like, I probably still am. And then the change has been massive. You can detox from many, many things. And when I say detox, it's gentle. It's not like these crazy, stupid detoxes where you feel like you're dying, which, you know, everyone knows the term detox is a bit stupid because your body detoxes anyway. But certain things like medicines or heavy metals, they kind of stay in the system until we specifically want to draw them out. Homeopathy is a great tool for this. Mold, it's a great tool for that. And all of these things that we kind of are talking about in the nutritional therapy space or the integrative health space, homeopathy has remedies for and can work just as powerfully, or if not more effectively, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, you know, or hand in hand. Why not have more tools? So anyway, I think I'm going to end the podcast there because I feel like homeopathy is just insane and I could talk about it forever. But I am opening up my clinic in September. I will primarily be working with pregnancy, fertility, and hormonal health. With that, I will be obviously helping women restore their periods after years of undereating or exercise addiction. So that will be another kind of part of my practice. I do work with other things, but mainly it's women, hormones, pregnancy, fertility. So if you're like, you know, this is me, I feel like there's something quite not right with my periods, actually my periods are painful, or well, I'm going through menopause and I feel like I'm nosediving, all of these things I can support you with. Maybe it's something like, actually since giving birth you've never been well. These are all things that I can support you through. And a lot of the time people are just like, I have no energy anymore. That's a big one. So be sure to message me. I'm opening up my spots for September now. Consults are not through the roof pricing wise. They're very, very generously priced, and they will include your remedies that will be posted to you, unless it's like otherwise stated, but they should include your remedies. And anywhere like your remedies aren't included, I'll knock a proportion off your investment for the session. So I believe homeopathy is going to change the world. Call me idealistic, call me crazy, but each and everything we do to empower ourselves to heal our own bodies and be free from like having our health taken outside of us, I'm all for it. So that's all I have to say. So I probably missed out a big chunk of like info here. I don't know. Don't forget that these are kind of like the last couple of months I'm offering astrology readings. I'm probably going to bring them back at Christmas because everyone loves their year ahead readings. But in your astrology readings, I do make some homeopathic recommendations. So please do reach out, because I have a promo on for all my readings in July, where you can like save a chunk of money. So why wouldn't you? And I probably won't read again, come September until December. That's if I do year aheads, because I'm visualizing that my practice is going to be quite full by that point. Please remember as well, if you get any illnesses, problems, come to me before your doctor, because I'm sure, I'm joking, come to me as well, because I'm sure that any acute bug, I'll get you in before your doctor, and I'll be able to help take off the pressure with homeopathy before. But remember that any illness you have, you must go to a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose or treat any illness. I am not a doctor. You should always consult a doctor. Just saying that disclaimer right there, because I'm not. However, come to me if you do have an acute illness, because I'll definitely be able to support you with homeopathy. This is probably going to be censored, but oh well, who cares? I'm sending you all a big hug, and please reach out if I can support you with homeopathy. And yeah, take it easy, and we'll speak soon.